And we're live. Welcome to B&A Panorama Podcast for another episode. We have a very intriguing guest on today. But before that, I'd like to always say, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at BA Panorama Pod. Once again, that's BA Panorama Pod. And if you like what you're hearing, please feel free to give us a rating. And without further ado, today's agenda will be basically the journey and story of my relative Ryan Janke. And what is our exact bloodline, actually? How would you describe
I
it?
don't know. We tried to go over this with Dell, who's another relative of ours, and the easiest thing that I say, you're my cousin. How's that sound?
That sounds a lot easier than trying to actually figure out the family tree.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I guess today's episode, essentially, whatever age you are, I think you can take something away from this, because whether you're 20 years old and you're really not sure what you're gonna, you want to do with your life, whether you're 40 and you feel like you've done a lot and maybe you have regret, or maybe you have things that you want to still do. The main thing for me to take away from this for everybody is it's never too late to do what you really want to do. So I am excited to have you on, and indeed, I actually have not heard this story, the full details. I know the puzzle pieces, but I'm excited to hear them all put together tonight.
Yeah, Adam's talked a lot about it, and I'm pretty excited to hear it too. I won't lie. I've been waiting, itching.
Well, no pressure.
So without further ado, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no pressure. The biography of Ryan Janke, isn't that how it kind of feels? So without further ado, you're in high school, you just graduate. Walk us through what was going through your head. Let's go back quite a bit here. Let's take a throwback.
Oh boy. Well, so you're going back about 25 years now. But what was going through my head then? Gosh, nothing really good, I guess, at that point. Without going back too much farther than that, just had some different struggles, bounced around a little bit. I grew up in Wishick, North Dakota, which is a town of, I suppose, 1,000 people, south central North Dakota. And we moved from there when I was in 8th grade, and then we moved to Bismarck. I was there till the end of 9th grade, lived in Minot for 10th grade, and then I graduated from Fargo South. And so there's a lot of bouncing around. And so it was tough. I didn't have any, at that point, aspirations to go to college. I just thought I'll get into the workforce and make some money. And gosh, they were going to pay me $7.25 an hour, guys. I was rolling.
Yeah. That's funny.
And so I after graduation, I went right into the workforce. Got a job at an oil change service station and worked there for about 9 months. And after that, I worked at a couple of car dealerships for a couple of years. And during the quick service job and the first car dealership, there wasn't a whole lot of direction at that time. I just kind of made money and screwing around, really. There wasn't any direction at that point. I moved away for a little while. I actually went to a radio broadcasting school in Minneapolis, Mendota Heights, actually, and was only there for 1 quarter, and I came back, and that's one of the regrets I have, that I didn't stick that out, because I think I really would have liked that. But I came back because I thought that I needed to be earning money and having a job, and I was by that time, I suppose, 21 years old, and it's one thing about life that's weird is no matter what age you are, you feel like you're running out of time. It seems like, and I guess we'll get to this later. You're not, but So I was 21 and thinking, I gotta be making a living, making some money, and so I went back to the car dealership that I had left to go to Minneapolis, and I got to back together with she's my wife now. She was a friend of mine in high school, and once I was dating her, I guess I settled down a little bit. There wasn't going out and spending all the money that I was making, working every day, and so we dated. We started dating. I can't remember how long we dated for, maybe almost 2 years, and then we got married. I was still at a car dealership then, and yeah, we got married when we were 23, I want to say, and actually, Adam, your dad and I went to a NASCAR race in Michigan, and I was talking to him, telling him that I didn't like my job. I wasn't, I realized that $8.50 an hour or whatever wasn't as much money as I thought. And and I wanted to make more money. I didn't want to work 2 or 3 jobs or whatever, which is what I started doing, delivering pizza or whatever. Seems like the more you can fall into that trap where when I worked at the quick service station, like I said, I was making $7.25 an hour and broke. And then I went and started the first car dealership, and gosh, they were going to pay me $7.50, guys. It was getting crazy at that point.
Holy cow, you're getting a big old raise.
Yeah, and crazy enough, I was broke all the time, making $7.50 an hour. And it seemed like the more money I was making, the more money I was spending. And so anyway, I went on a NASCAR trip to a NASCAR race with your dad, and we were talking, and he was telling me about working for the city of Fargo, and seemed like a pretty good deal to me. I mean, they made pretty decent money and good benefits and chances for overtime, and so I tried for a while to get on with the city, and then finally I did, and worked there for 13 years at the city of Fargo, and it's a good job. It's pays decent, especially for a guy like me. I never went to college. I never never did anything like that. No formal education. And for a guy like me, I was making pretty good money then. When I left there, I think I was making $26 an hour or something like that, maybe 27. I can't remember, but so I did that for 13 years. I started in the water filtration department, and then I went over to the street department, and I think I did that of the 13 years. I think I was in there for about 10 of those. And so during that time, like I said, I was making a pretty good living for a guy with no college degree or any
no college debt.
Right. Well, no college debt either. Yeah. And well, that's a funny part of the story too. So, as I'm moving along, I'm making the money, but I'm just not feeling like, I kept having a feeling like there was more for me out there, and like I said, good job. The guys I worked with were great. I just felt like for me, that I wasn't going home feeling fulfilled, I guess maybe is the word. But also, I started there in 2005, and shortly after I started there, our first child was born, our son, and when he turned, well, I guess he was 3, almost 4. We put him in preschool. We wanted to put him in preschool, and we thought that we wanted to put him in a Christian preschool. And up to that point, I was I guess you call it a C&E Christian, Christmas and Easter. That was when I was going to church. Pretty much, it was Christmas and Easter, and when we got married, I guess. But for whatever reason, I had this feeling like we wanted to put him in a Christian preschool, and so we got some ideas from some people, and we talked to somebody who said that they take their child to Atonement, and we checked it out, and the price was pretty good, so we put him in there, and we weren't going to church there. Like I said, we weren't really going to church anywhere, and but we had him going there 2 or 3 days a week. I don't remember, and he got, obviously, how it goes. He was there and had his classmates, and they became friends, and naturally, he's getting invited to birthday parties, and we're inviting his friends to his birthday party, and so we got to know the families of his friends and the kids that he was in preschool with, and one day we're like, we should check this out. Why don't we just see? We've been talking about attending church more regularly, and just never did it. And we went, and just about felt like family right away, right off the bat. And that was probably in 2009, I suppose. And after that, things seemed to kind of snowball as far as my faith was concerned. I had kind of fallen away, as a lot of people do during their 20s and whatever, and started going more regularly, got involved. We were involved with the broadcast team at that time. Audio video team, I think is what they called it. But basically they had about 2 cameras set up and recorded the service and put them on DVDs and gave them to the cable access places in Fargo and Moorhead. And just got to know people, and just reading my Bible more and going to church pretty by that point. And I think that probably had some to do with me sort of feeling like where I was at with the city of Fargo wasn't where I was really supposed to be. I just felt like what I was doing wasn't for me. And at the time, I thought that the city of Fargo definitely was for me, just the department that I was in, on the street department, wasn't. And so in 2014, I suppose, I really started thinking that I need to start doing something about that. For a few years, I thought, maybe getting an engineering degree would be neat, because there's a lot of engineers with the city, obviously. And so I kicked that around for a couple of years, but I checked it out, and, there's really no way to do it without being on campus for that program. And so I just kicked things around, and I was kind of felt like, I'm in this spot where, what am I going to do? I can't quit my job and go to college. I can't do it while I'm working, because on the street department where I was working at, Adam, this, if it snows, you're working. If it's flooding, you're working. If there's a chemical spill, you could be working, or a tornado, or anything that happens where the streets are affected, or the sewers, or anything. You get a real heavy rain, you might be working because the streets are flooding because of the sewer system's backing up, and
or potatoes on the road, right? I believe that happened one time. I remember you telling me how you had to clean up potatoes on the road.
Well, it could, yeah, it literally could be anything. There's dead skunk, or who knows. One day there was a truck of some sort that busted a hydraulic line, and he drove, for those listening might not know this, but 45th Street's a pretty traveled street here in Fargo, and on 45th Street by Coles there, the line broke, and whoever was driving it took it all the way across 13th Avenue and just about past Denny's before they decided to stop. So there's hydraulic
Oh
oil.
boy.
There was hydraulic oil, again, for people who aren't from around here. About 2 or 3 city blocks, I suppose. And so, I'm out there in the evening, and I'm sure I had something better to do, but I'm out there cleaning up hydraulic oil for who knows how long. But yeah, you're right. It could be potatoes. It could be snow. If it's on the street, it's got to get out of there. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was just going to campus wasn't really going to work for me, but I kept looking. I kept having that sort of urge, that feeling that I need to do something else. And so one day I think I must have been on NDSU's website and saw that they have a communications degree, strategic communication. And by this time now I'm 35 years old, I guess. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you turn 21 and you think you're running out of time. You turn 25 and you're running out of time. And I'm 35 now, and I'm like, well, why am I going to screw around now? I've been with the city for as long as I had been by that point, and I got pension going on. I got all kinds of stuff going on. Then I thought, well, if I could do this online, I could stay with the city, which would be fantastic. And maybe I could get a job downtown, in City Hall or something like that. And so I checked it out, and their strategic communication degree was 100% online. And I thought, well, this is, I can do this. And so I started in the summer semester of 2015. So by then I was 30. Well, no, I guess I would have been 36. It was right before my 37th birthday. And I started that, and I went year round, except for I think one summer. But I went about 2.5 years full time summer, and it was considered full time summer and summer, spring, and fall semesters. I think in the summer it was only 9 credits to be considered full time, and then 12 spring and fall. But I went to sign up for classes, and none of my classes were available online. I thought, well, what the heck? So I checked it out. I waited thinking maybe there's something will open up. And finally one day I was like, well, this is crazy. None of my classes are available. So I call up to campus, and they're like, oh, evidently nobody told you. The communications department, right, doesn't communicate. They 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 decided that they were going to make most of the classes available online, but not all of the classes. If you wanted to finish your degree, you had to come to campus to finish it.
Wow.
And so now I'm stuck, right? I got a year and a half left. What am I going to do now? And was somebody going to say something?
I was just going to say, I understand why you said you felt trapped. I mean, at the random event that something happens, you got to be there ready to clean and take care of it. And you're the one responsible for all of that. But now your only opportunity that you thought is kind of being taken away. And it's just like, I understand how you felt so trapped in that moment.
Yeah, it was bad, like, well, okay, now, so, and this goes back to your student loan comment, right? Where, okay, now I'm 2.5 years into this thing. I've dumped all this money into it, let alone, money and time. I mean, I've got 2 kids at home. I've got a wife at home. I've got a full-time job, and I'm scrambling to try to get this degree done, And so I was talking to my wife, and we went on a trip to Pennsylvania, the 2 of us. And, we were just talking about it, like, this really sucks. What am I supposed to do now? This thing could drag out. I started with the idea that I'm going to get this thing done in 4 years. And the people at NDSU said, "You're nuts. You're not going to get it done in 4 years. You can't." And I thought, I have to. Like I said, I'm 36, getting old. and but I went after it, and it just so happened that every time I needed a class, the class was available. If I needed a science class, boom, there it was, available online. But then I hit this wall. And so my wife and I were in Pennsylvania, and maybe we were flying back. We went and met some friends out there. And she said, Ryan, I think you just need to do it. I said, do what? Just got to quit and finish this thing. I was like, are you insane?
Wow.
How are we going to afford that? She's like, we can make it work, man. Let's do this. And so she was like 100%, you need to quit your job. You need to do what you need to do to get up on campus and do this. And I'm thinking, there's no way. She's lost her mind. How are we going to afford this? And so some time went on, and she's like, Ryan, you got to do it. And while I was in the street department, I moved. I transferred out of there because it was getting hard to do those classes, like you just said, Brandon, being married to that job, working overnights and weird hours, and trying to working all night long, 9 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. and then trying to figure out when to read. I mean, try reading when you're working an overnight shift. Get into some heavy duty biology or something. And so an opportunity came up to transfer to a different department. And one thing I didn't say earlier, that like I said, I had this urging, I had this feeling like I needed to get out of the street department and onto something else. And I feel like it was God sort of there saying, hey, you got to move. You got to get out of here. And like I said, I was thinking going downtown, going to City Hall, do something like that. And so I thought, well, this was before we had made this decision. The best way for me to do this is to transfer to a different department if I can. And another department, a job in another department came open, and I took it, and it was not good. It was just kind of a bad fit for me, and I really got down during I think it was about a year that I was in that department, and just really down on myself. But I realized that I think what God was telling me was, no, I didn't say get out of this department. I said get out of the city. You got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was during that time then that we had this conversation, and okay, I quit. And I quit at the city where like I said, I'd been there for 13 years. I had pension. I had, a lot of vacation time, a lot of sick time. Like I said earlier, making $26, $27 an hour, whatever it was. And I quit. And it was probably the best decision I've ever made. I quit. I took classes on campus. I think I maybe had one or two that were still online, but most of them, those last 2 semesters, were up on campus. And everything worked out. I needed an internship, and I got an internship with a free weekly paper here in Fargo called High Plains Reader. And they let me come on and pretty much make the internship what I wanted it to be. It wasn't paid. I was basically free labor for them, but they never treated me that way. They gave me creative control of what I was doing. If I wanted to learn something, they let me learn it. It was just a great experience. And through that, I got some other freelancing jobs writing. And so we were able to, it just worked. Everything just worked. And so I graduated, and there was a position open at Atonement for a high school ministry director, and I applied for that. I had gone on some mission trips in 2015. I guess I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit, but in 2015, right after I was done with that first summer semester, I went on a mission trip. One of the youth pastors at Atonement invited me along to Chicago. Said, "Hey, you want to chaperone a high school trip?" And I said, "Do you know who I am? You want me chaperoning kids, you know?" And she said, "Yeah, I think you'd be great." And man, I was like, I came back wondering when's the next time I can go on a mission trip. Like I want to do that.
Mhm.
But at the time, I didn't realize that it was, something that would eventually become something that, this is what you do, go on mission trips once a year. And they at Atonement, their middle school ministry director position was vacant for a while, and so I applied and I got it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm and that's kind of evolved too with COVID going on. So I don't just do the the coordinating confirmation stuff and all that. We have a podcast that I co-host. We broadcast all of our services online now. I'm involved with the broadcast team there, and I went on one of the best trips I've ever been on. It's a top 5 moment, I would say, in my life. We went to San Francisco in the summer of 2019, and it was just phenomenal. And that's how I got here. I suppose that was kind of a long, winding trail there, but yeah, that's how I got here.
That's an awesome story. I mean, the buildup is really, it feels like like a normal kind of life where you get a job and you just work and you have a family and you settle down. But it was kind of the opposite, where after you had your first kid, it kind of snowballed into you reconnecting with your faith. And after then, you started to feel like there was more that you had left to complete in your life. And then your wife pushed you to help you feel like you were making the right decision by taking that leap of faith to quit and pursue what you wanted. And I think it's just a testament to how good a decision it is to really trust your gut and go with what you feel is your own version of self-fulfillment, because now you seem happier than ever with it. And looking back, obviously you were saying that it wasn't bad, but there was always more. And now you sound like you've been, going on life-changing mission trips, which is awesome. And me and Adam are looking forward to hopefully going on some of those. And, the journey is just a testament of how taking a leap of faith is sometimes the best decision of your life.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I would say there are there's a lot of voices out there. There's a lot of people who like to tell you, especially now, it would seem like sort of that benchmark is how much money you make, right? How much, how
Yeah.
like if you meet somebody, and we all do it. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just the culture that we live in. If you go meet somebody, within the first 5 minutes of the conversation, you'll say, "Well, what do you do? Where do you do? Meaning, what do you do for a living? And I think there's a lot of sort of that keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing, where you want to, the measure of success is kind of how much money you make, how many cars you got in the garage, or you know what I mean, like how big your TV is, things like that. And I think that kind of robs people of what's really important and what really makes them happy. I mean, yeah, cars are nice, but what's that going to do for your happiness long term? what's that going to do to fulfill you? And there are plenty of jobs that are very fulfilling jobs that fall into that category, but not all of them do. And I think that if you can do something that you truly love and really makes you happy, go for that first. And then if the money's there, great.
Right. It's just like a byproduct more so of what you're doing.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of that, I guess what I pulled away from that is like you had a great support system as in your wife. And you also talked about like, there's a lot of voices to listen to. And when the people that are closest to you are telling you to go for it, you're more inclined to go for it, I think.
I didn't finish that thought. There's a lot of voices there. The trick is to figure out the one that you actually should be listening to. You can have a lot of people sort of like when I was going to NDSU while I was doing the online thing, still working at the city. I got a lot of sort of, hey, you're going to graduate, you're going to have this degree, but what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go that you're going to make $26 an hour? Well, probably not a lot of places, but again, it goes back to what do you really want to do? What's really going to fulfill you and give you that peace of mind? Is it, and so there's those voices that are making you question what you're doing and sort of making you complacent and say, okay, yeah, maybe this is the best I can do. But there's also those voices that are saying, hey, go ahead and do it. And one thing that I've found in the last probably 5-6 years is if something terrifies me, if a decision is coming up that absolutely terrifies me, might be the right one.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's right on the marker with, and another thing that I guess I pulled away was you always feel like you're running out of time. I'm 20 years old and, I feel that too. And, it's just natural. You think, well, maybe I haven't accomplished what I should have already at this age. And like, maybe I need to, get things going, or you just naturally you start to feel that.
Yeah. I can think back to plenty of times throughout my life where I've had that feeling like I said, I'm 21, I gotta get things together. I'm running out of time. I'm 25, hey, I gotta get married. I gotta have kids. I gotta buy a house. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. You're constantly in sort of that, or you can be in sort of that state of mind. But then you look back when you're 25, you look back thinking, man, 21, I had all the time in the world. You get to 30 and you look back at 25, man, I had all the time in the world. Now here I am. How old am I? I'm 42, I guess. Looking back, man, if I was 20, holy smokes, with what I know now, you got lots of time, it's but it's, I think it's a natural thing to sort of fall into that kind of, I feel like I'm running out of time sort of thing.
Right. And I guess another question that I have is when you made this move to go to college and, you're a father of two and a husband, how do you stay strong during those times? And it's not always easy, you went through struggles, obviously, like it's not always easy. So like what kept you strong, or what made you just continually push on?
I think there are a few things. My wife definitely was huge in that, just being a constant support, doing what needed to be done so that I could succeed. If I'm either at work or I'm doing schoolwork, well, who's doing the stuff around the house? Who's taking care of the kids, who's taking care of the, all the other things like that, and it was her. She was helping me out. She was taking care of that stuff. So she was huge. I think also, I got a lot of support at church with my friends there. I got a lot of, encouragement that way. And there was also sort of that sense that, hey, I wanted to succeed. When I went into it, I was like, I want to do the best I can, because this really has the potential to put my family in a bind financially, emotionally, all that kind of stuff. And I think part of what kept me going was sort of that I'm in too deep now. Everybody knows what I'm doing. Everybody knows that I'm there. And if I fall, I don't want to fall flat on my face, because everybody's going to watch it happen. There was that too.
Well, they ask, like, what are you doing with what do you do with your occupation? Well, when somebody knows that you're doing what you were doing, they're going to ask, like, how is that going, the progress? And then if you don't do it, you got to like tell everybody.
Yeah. So there was a lot of different factors like that, but I would say my wife was probably top of the list. The emotional support, the just, the everything that she did around the house, taking care of the kids. If I was on the overnight shift, letting me sleep so that I could get up and do what I had to do for class before I had to go back in again. I mean, it was a when you're in the thick of it, it's really tough, but you're just kind of trying to do what you can do to stay above water. They say time heals all wounds, right? So when you look back, you're like, it's not that bad. But if I'm real about it, I look back and say, man, that was tough, But yeah, I had a lot of support, ton of support, which helps a lot.
I was going to kind of piggyback off of that. When you were going through this whole process, did you have anyone around you that kind of doubted you, or anyone that you surrounded yourself with that kind of questioned you and always maybe made you doubt about your decisions? Or did you surround yourself with a lot of people who were always supportive, and you really cut out that negative feedback and energy of people pulling you down? Or was it kind of just by chance and just who you were just always around that you had a supportive group?
Well, as far as the negative stuff, I mean, the devil did a pretty good job of that. Just constantly that self-doubt. But I think that I just had a good positive group around me. I mean, I still have a small group at church that we've been a group for, I don't know, 10 years. I don't know, not sure how long. Maybe not quite that long, but I mean, so we would meet with them every Sunday, and there was constant encouragement from them. If I was stressed out, one of the guys would say, "Hey man, let's go get a beer. Let's just go talk and forget about it for a while, and just sort of decompress that way." I had, my family, everybody was really, really supportive of it. There were comments from people, I think sort of not meaning to sort of, water those seeds of doubt that were already there. But, there would be those comments like I said before, where are you going to go and make $26 an hour? Or, you're by the time you're done, you're going to be 41 or whatever. Nobody wants to hire a 41-year-old anymore. I remember that comment one time.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
I mean, you're going to have to, like I said, it's those voices that you're going to have to sort of, you're going to have to mute those voices, and you're going to have to realize that if what you're doing is the right thing, then to hell with those voices. You know, just do what you're doing.
So I guess one of my final questions, and this is pretty tricky to answer, I suppose, or it's probably tough to even answer it in an hour almost. Like, you could go on about this for a while, but it's a two-part question. One, what would you say to people in their early 20s, or like just graduating high school, or even in high school, like for advice on how to live a principled and fulfilling life, so you don't have to go through this like intermediate period where you're bouncing around, which it might happen, but like, what would be the ways that you could make it so you are focused and doing what you want to do off the bat? And my second question is, what would you say to people in their 30s to 40s that are going through something that seems really tough, where they want to get out of it, but they're not sure if they should?
Well, I would say for people who are young, high school, out of high school, or like you guys, I would say kind of what I sort of alluded to earlier. Don't chase after the material things. Figure out what is going to make you happy, and it doesn't matter what it is. If it's going to make you happy, or it's going to make you maybe not even necessarily happy, but fulfilled, like you feel good. Like when I go to work now, let me back up. When I went to work, when I was working for the street department, it was all I had to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, it took everything to get out of bed, and then I would get there, and it took everything to get out of the car once I was in the parking lot to go in the building. And now I get up and I'm like, I got to get to work. I got stuff going on. Not because I'm so busy. I am busy, but not because I'm so busy, but because I want to do it. Like I want to do the best that I can do for these families and these kids that are in our confirmation program, or in our youth program. And I think that what you want to do is find that whatever it is that gets you out of bed in the morning, like what gets you going. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it is getting into a snowplow and plowing streets. Good. If it's making cabinets, or it's whatever it is. If it's making underwater baskets, like whatever it is, go for it. Just do it, and you'll be a lot happier for it. And don't listen to all the people who, there's so much pressure on kids to go to college. I mean, you guys are right there. You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If college isn't for you,
right on,
then don't do it. Or you can wait. You don't have to go when you're 18 years old or 19 years old. I mean, like I said, I started when I was 36. So I would say figure out what gets you out of bed in the morning, and that might change over time, and that's okay. I mean, if you're 19 years old and what gets you revved up is delivering pizzas, then go deliver the pizzas. And if if you are delivering those pizzas, and you learn about the business end of the pizza place, and you're like, man, I'd really like to do that, and you're 24, you're 25, then go to college and do that, or learn how to do it where you're at if you can. But I would say, chase after what gets you out of bed in the morning, and worry about the material things later, because your car is eventually going to peter out, and you're going to have to get rid of that. Your TV one day isn't going to turn on when you come downstairs, but your passion is going to be there. and later on in people in their 30s, like I said, if you're feeling that calling, if you're feeling like there's something else out there, then there probably is. And you can make it happen. Like I said, we were both working full-time jobs, and I quit. And you want to talk about scary? Whatever you guys, I don't know what you're making for income, whatever you're doing, but cut it in half and see how that goes for you. I mean, it's scary, but if it's supposed to be, it's going to work.
Like you said, the terrifying decisions are usually the ones that end up being the best decisions.
Yeah, it seems like every time I've been terrified to do something, even that first mission trip I went on in 2015, I mean, I was like, these people are going to put me in charge of these kids? Are they nuts? Man, best decision, one of the best decisions I've ever made. And, quitting working at the city, one of the best decisions I ever made. And that's not knocking against the city. It's just like I said, what I was meant for wasn't there. It was for something else. And if I would have just been like, well, I'm too scared to leave. I mean, I got a steady paycheck. It comes every 2 weeks. It pays me really well. I know what I'm doing. I've been here for 13 years. No, I'm too scared to leave. Well, I would still be there, this many years later, waking up and going, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to even face the day. And that's no way to live,
Mm-hmm.
No. That is...
Yeah.
I am inspired, I must say. That was awesome. And I appreciate that you came on, you were able to tell the story, and, not everybody has the courage to even do that.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. I really do. I feel honored that you wanted to hear my story, so I appreciate it.
Oh, yes. I mean, that was awesome. And, I think that's something that's important to me, is to show gratitude and let people know how I feel. And I've already told you this before, but, you're definitely one of those people that I've, been inspired by. And I know your story, and, we weren't really too close probably till really the last like 3 months we started talking a lot more. And, even though years ago though, I was still like, when I knew you were going through this, I was inspired, and I still am to this day, and that's why I was super excited.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. Now you can edit this out, right? I'm going to embarrass you for a second, but my wife and I were
yeah.
We were talking earlier. We got married in 2001, and I think we still have pictures somewhere of you. I think you were 1 year old. Just cutting a rug on the dance floor in your little suit.
I have that picture, actually. I believe it's in my room still, which is funny.
Yeah, we were talking about that. So you guys are. I'm inspired by you guys doing what you're doing with the podcast, and again, just going for it. I mean, you're just doing it, and I don't know if you've gotten any of that negativity. I hope that you haven't, but if you have, I'm glad that you said, whatever, we're doing this. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. I think one other thing that I would say to people, and I know that I fell into this a lot too, is as the years go on, and you make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You guys have made mistakes. I've made mistakes, and you're going to keep making them. But you can't dwell on those mistakes. If they're back there, and that's not the direction you're going. You're going forward, and you got to keep that in mind too. And so I think it's great that you guys are just you're going forward. You're going. Where you're going, and you're going, and I love it. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate that a lot. Speaking of podcasts, would you like to plug the podcast name that you actually are the co-host of, and anything else that you'd like to
Oh,
promote, now is the time.
yeah.
We'd love to hear.
Yeah, we started a podcast in March of this year. Basically, when I started at Atonement, I talked to one of the pastors there, Pastor DJ, and I said, I'd like to do a podcast. I don't even know what, but I'd like to do one. And it was always that, yeah, we should do that. We should do that. Never happened. Then the pandemic hit, and hey, let's do a podcast. We wanted to do something to keep the congregation plugged in, keep them connected, and so we started doing that in March. And we so I would probably cringe if I went back and listened to the first couple episodes, because it was sort of like so we've got this podcast here. But you get it becomes more natural and everything. And when we started it, we didn't have a name for it, and so we just wrote it down. We just wrote down That Podcast, and that's actually the name of it. It's That Podcast. You can find it at by searching Atonement Fargo. We're on YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox. That's all I can think of right now. But we talk about a lot of Christian-based things, a lot of talk about a lot of Lutheran stuff, but just a lot of stuff about Jesus. This last episode, which will probably be a couple weeks ago by the time this recording comes out, but it was kind of piggybacked off of the message from that Sunday. The pastor said he talked about there being so much evidence for Jesus and for Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, and I wanted to press him on that a little bit. Tell me about all this evidence that you've got. And so we talked about that for just about an hour. It was really good. But it's just a lot of questions like that. We had a question about mythical creatures in the Bible, or dinosaurs in the Bible. We had a whole episode about that. And so we try to be fun. We don't want to be like sort of a theology class. We definitely don't want that. We want to keep it entertaining. And so, it's called That Podcast. I'm always on there. Pastor DJ Lura and Sarah DeYoung is the other person with us. And so, and if another way to sort of stay positive is if you don't have like a life group or a small group or something like that, if you're at a church, or if you're not at a church but you want to get plugged into a church, find a small group. That's a really, really good source of support and just people that you can lean on, especially when you're having hard times. And so, we broadcast all our services at Atonement. You can find them at atonement.live, atonementfargo.org, or if you go on YouTube, just check our YouTube channel, Atonement Fargo. You can find all of our stuff there too.
Sweet. Sounds intriguing for sure. I actually listen to the podcast myself, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, show Ryan some love. Go check it out.
Well. No pun intended.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, yeah, take care.
Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode of B&A Panorama Podcast. Always remember, be great and be built different.